So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Wednesday night with Advisors webinars, Surviving the Pandemic. Tonight, I would like to welcome my dear friend Ahmed Mokhtar joining us from Cairo. He will be speaking about P3O. Good evening, Ahmed. Can you kindly, yes?
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Saadi. Good evening to all.
Welcome, my dear. So as usual, I usually introduce every speaker. I know Ahmed from many years back. We worked together on some of the largest oil and gas organizations, construction and others. And he is one of our esteemed advisors. So having said that, I'm gonna leave the floor for you to continue introducing yourself and starting directly with the webinar. As usual, you're not gonna see me, I'll be in the background. So you take the lead, unless if you see me, maybe there is something I want to say, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, small glitch. So it's all yours. Let me start the slides for you, and then we can start directly. Okay.
Good. So good evening. So our topic tonight is P3O is re-energizing your P3O. My name is Ahmed Mokhtar, Ahmed Saleh Mokhtar. My background is civil engineering. I have over 35 years experience in project management and in construction management, starting from being project engineer, as a project manager, then as a consultant and senior management in some organizations. I'm certified BMB since more than 20 years and a member of PMI. I'm also in the construction side. I'm accredited consulting engineer for construction management, also since 20 years. One of my lovely projects that I like is Al Azhar Park project development, because it won actually Aga Khan Prize for development projects and is listed as one of the world's 60 great public spaces. It was a great project actually. After the working in this construction project, I moved actually to PMOs, and participated and currently is still participating in building and operating some of PMOs in our area. I'm also active in the project management community, participating in several volunteer activities, like the Egyptian Code of Project Management. We are doing something for the construction with the Ministry of Housing in Egypt. I am also one of the chartering members of the Egyptian Project Management Society, and was previously Vice President of PMI MENA chapter, the former chapter in Middle East and North Africa. So our today's session will speak about P3O and re-energizing PCO. So in last session that we have in our webinars, the speakers spoke about how to deal with the COVID-19's impact and so on. And usually people working in the PMO, project management office, will be busy with doing a lot of work to save projects in their organizations. Now I'm speaking about another topic. So what if the project management office itself needs help? So if the P3O or the PMO needs support, needs re-energizing in order to deal with the pandemic, because it is like any other project or any other part of the organization. It is impacted. It will be impacted by the COVID-19. Maybe we have some layoffs, we have some projects are not working well, and so on. So now we are going to see how we are going to empower this project management office. So this is a main objective, main idea that we are going to make today. So here we have used actually the terminology P3O instead of PMO. So now my question and first poll to you actually is to ask about the P3O. What is P3O? So, Dr. Saadi, can you have the first poll, please?
Yes, Ahmed, the poll is on. If you press on it, you're going to see the numbers toggling. People are entering their choices.
Okay, numbers are stabilizing. Good. Nice. Okay, most of you, the majority actually, 2/3 already voted for the right answer. P3 stands for Portfolio, Program, and Project Office. So now, why does this difference from the PMO that we usually speak about when we are working with PMI standards? P3O is, according to the UK standards, it is part of the best management practice guidance for project, portfolio, and program management. This is a group of the standard that we have in the UK system. We have the standard for project management, which is Prince2. I think most of you know it. Then for program management, we have a standard called Managing Successful Programs. For the portfolio level, we have Portfolio Management, Management of Portfolio MOP. So these are the three core standards that we have for project level, program level, and portfolio level. In addition, the best management practice guidance, we have also the P3O, the Foundation, Portfolio, Program, and Project Offices, P3O, which is actually our subject tonight. Additionally, there is also another practice called Management of Value, okay, and Management of Risks, another two standards, practice guidance. And then we have also the maturity model of the British system. This is P3M3, Portfolio, Program, and Project Management Maturity Model. This is equivalent to the former one that we had in PMI, is called OBM3. So now, tonight, we are going to work with these British types of, so the P3O is the PMO equivalent of the American system. So now let us define what is P3O. P3O is a business model. It's like a department, an office, business model you are building in order to support all business change in your organization. Business change means projects, programs, portfolios that are initiatives that are started in order to change your business. The main objective of the P3O is to enable decision making, giving information for decision making, and supporting the business changes, programs, projects, portfolios that you have. We could have different models for the P3O. It could include a single office or multiple offices, physical. It could be physical or virtual structure. It could be a permanent or temporary. At the end, all of these will provide you a mix of central functions and services and integrate with the governance structure that we have. So then we can say the main objective is supporting plus providing this governance to it. Like any other PMO, P3O model need to be customized to the needs of your organization. As we said, it could be single versus multiple. You have to decide physical versus virtual, central versus localized services in this case. Good. So let us see further the element that we have. This is what I like actually in the P3E model. They have 5 main elements. Yeah. And out of these 5 main elements in the model, you can match and mix and have your design your P3O that or PMO that you would like to have in your organization. So let us now see the main 5 parts. The first part is called OPO, Organization Project Portfolio Office. This is an office at the top of the organization. It helps managing portfolio across the entire organization. It's a central one. This is equivalent to the EBMO in the American system, if you are familiar with PMI system. Then this is the first stone that you can use to build your model. Second type of stones you have is called hub portfolio office. This is also a permanent office, also at portfolio level, but not on the top level of the organization, maybe at department level, at a division level, geographical area, business unit, business part, and so on. So this is also a permanent office, which is in a lower level than the top level of the OPO. In addition to these two permanent offices, the model includes also two temporary offices: program office and project office. Program, because program is temporary and project is temporary, then in this case, these offices or this part of the offices are built especially to support temporary initiative, like a program, then it's called program office. If it is just supporting one project, then it's called project office. The last part, or the fifth part that we have in the model, is Center of Excellence. This is a part which is responsible for making the standards, processes, templates, tools, giving skills and training, knowledge management, and so on. So this is the Center of Excellence. So what we are going to see later on when we plan our PMO, we are going to take out of these five whatever we need, mix and match in order to design it. And especially for the post-pandemic era, we will need to think about what part of this is needed, especially for us. Good. Next slide is about an example of that. Okay, to have an example, here in this example, we have an central office, okay, portfolio office, central, permanent one. We have two portfolio offices. Let us imagine, for example, you're an international company. They have one office in Europe managing the projects and portfolios in Europe, and the other one, for example, in Asia or in America. So you have two hub offices. And then under each one of them, we could have projects and program. Each project has a project office or a program office to support it. So where is the fifth one? The fifth one is the Center of Excellence, okay, which is actually supporting all these offices. So then we have all the five elements here. One on the top, the hub portfolios on regional or business unit level, then program and project offices for temporary project and programs, and then COE could support any of these offices that we have. Good. So now a question about physical and virtual P3 office. Maybe because of the pandemic area, we learned to work online on virtually. So the question is, what is the most important underlying success factor for a virtual P3O model? What could be a reason for you to support or choose a virtual P3O model out of these four answers? We are looking for a reason which is something which is specially needed to make this virtual P3O successful. Good. So numbers are stabilizing. Good. So a little bit more than 50% got the correct answer, which is number 2. In order to have a virtual P3O, which has no physical central office, successful, we should have a senior project program portfolio management professional having the ownership of the BPM standards instead of the central office. We don't have a physical central office in this case. So this is why we need this answer number 2 is the correct answer. For the answer number 1, because some of you selected it actually, this should be done by any of the offices actually. If it is a virtual or a physical one or any type of the model should give you number 1. But number 2 is very specific for the success for the virtual P3O. So good. Now, how to start? From where to start? Like any project, if you want to build a new P3O or even try to re-energize, empower your existing P3O to handle post-pandemic issues, in this case, you have to start with a business case. If you have a business case for your P3O, then you have to review the business case, see if it's still valid or not. Do you need to add some items to it or not? Okay, so this is reviewing and confirming your business case, including the risks that you have used before in order to build your model so that it is still valid to empower and change your P3O model. For example, you will have background information assessment of reasons for re-energizing, why we need to re-energize, what happened in our organization according to the pandemic that happened. Then after this background information and assessment information, we are going to put some goals, overall goals for the business case, then some SMART objectives, then cost benefit analysis, risk that we have for the post-pandemic period, then appraisal of the investment, giving some figures about IRR, return on investment, and so on. This is very important in order to, when you go to the management, ask them to approve the re-energizing project. You have one document, just one is very important. So what else we need as a document for getting approval and getting investment for our re-energizing in addition to the business case? We have first to identify the stakeholders, senior management, especially that could provide these investment, a department which can give you part of its budget, someone who can support it. So this is very important. Then we identify the problems that we have, post-pandemic issues, problems we have, analyze the recent issues, prepare the value matrix. These are going to see on the next slide. Then maybe we can review the maturity level again. Yeah, it could be increased in last time between starting your previous P3O and the one you are now re-energizing. Then agreeing on the vision with the management. And the vision should be divided into portfolio, program, and project-related visions, what we are going to make in our portfolio project and program levels. Then, as we said before, business case should be a strong case with key KPIs. Then we have to agree with management also on whether we are going to make a permanent office or temporary office regarding the cost. This is a model, how many offices we are going to have. This will be based on the available budget and needs. Good. So this is a value matrix. This is something that you have to present to your management, showing them how you are going to support projects, programs, and portfolios. So in the value matrix, of course, you can write whatever you need in your organization. This is just an example. So we start with the project level, writing how the project, the P3O project will support the projects. So for example, providing tools, techniques, and skills. Then you go to the governance part. So where you are going to verify the achievement, how you are going to follow up the project. Then go to the program level, to the portfolio level. So in each one of them, write what is the value added of the P3O in terms of support and terms of assurance or governance you are going, or control you are going to provide to top management. So after having that, you have to know that, like any new project, especially in establishing a PMO or a P3O, you will have some barriers. You have to work on solving these issues or problems that may have you. These are some statistics about the common barriers has been faced during implementation of P3O. Number one, top is lack of focus on the full P3O model. So just concentrating on solving specific items without having the big picture. This is one of the problems. Funding difficulties, of course. Then changing the culture. This is very important. I think we have a lot of lectures and webinars before about the resistance for change and change management is a very important topic. Lack of senior management sponsorship or commitment. The bureaucracy that people are expecting from the P3O processes, we are adding another level of bureaucracy. Maybe sometimes the P3O manager lack the authority to implement the changes. Roles and responsibilities are not clear. And then the scope of the P3 offices, especially if you have more than one office in the organization, are not clear. This could be one of the barriers we have. Now, the question to you is, in your opinion, what are the top 3 barriers faced in implementation of your P3O? This is specifically for your case. I'm not asking about the statistics from the literature, but from your own experience, what could be the top 3 of these elements? You can choose more than one in this case. Okay.
Ahmed, I'm sorry, they can only choose one.
Okay, only one. Good. Okay, then we will have the top 3 out of them. Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, numbers are stabilizing. We can end the poll. Yeah, good, very good. So number 1, according to your opinion, is the lack of senior management. So answer number 2. Then comes challenging the culture, so change management. Then difficulties in funding. So that's actually the first 3, but we are starting with number 2 first, then 3. I can understand this actually because in implementing or re-energizing, changing the current PMO, you will need senior management sponsorship. When management are convinced of the implementation you'd like to plan, they will support you, and also they can help you actually to overcome the resistance. And then comes the funding, of course, because of the pandemic area that we have. Good. So these are top 3 as you selected. Good. Now, after having your business case, agreeing your business case, then we have to select the appropriate model for us. So let us see now how we select the appropriate model. So the design should address first the which P3O model will be selected or deployed. Then how many separate offices are needed? 1, 2, 3. This will depend, of course, on the size of the company. Then what are the functions and services that we need the P3O to offer? And where are the offices will be located? Is it in one central location? It will be virtual or not? So these are the 4 questions we need to answer. Based on what? These questions will be answered based on the following factors. First of all, the economic sector you are working, whether it is private or government sector, size of the organization. Big organizations, international companies maybe will need more than one project office. the maturity level of the organization that you have, project management maturity level, then the organizational culture you have, if the culture is already following quality culture, continuous improvement culture, it will be easier to implement PMOs. Governance arrangement, of course, number of projects you have, the complexity, duration, some information about that. The culture of the company in centralization versus decentralization of services. This would be a culture of the company itself. Then whether the projects are undertaken internally or for external clients. Also here, the model will be different in this case. We could have also a lot of other factors for that. So based on these factors and other factors, we are going to select which model is the best for us. As we have seen before, we had 5 components: the OBO, the Center of Excellence, the portfolio or the hub portfolio offices, the program office, and the project office. So out of that, you can mix and match a lot of options and see what option is best for you. I just listed here 4 different models, just to have 2 of them. Design model number 1 is to have a central OBO and COE centrally in the top of the company, so portfolio office with the Center of Excellence services in one office. And then maybe if it's needed, you employ a program office only for complex programs and complex project, you have a project office. So the core here is just one office at the top of the organization. The second one is the same actually, but you have the Center of Excellence services are external. It is not within the portfolio office. Interesting one is number 3 that we have seen. This is good for big organizations. You have an organizational portfolio office with COE, and you have hub portfolio offices in number of your regional offices, for example. So this is a little bit for larger organization. So as you see here, you can just mix and match your design out of this existing one. The good that we have here, the best that we have here is that each office has roles and responsibilities already in the standard P3O that we are using. Good. So quick to another one for you about the functions. After selecting the design, then we'll start to select functions. So in your opinion, which strategic planning function or portfolio support function of the following 4 is for a P3O model? Which one of these 4 is a strategic planning function? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Good. Okay, so it's stabilizing already, so we can end the poll. Good. So results actually, the correct answer here is number 1, not number 2 and 3. We are speaking here about strategic planning function. Number 2, resource pool, is not strategic. This is support for the delivery, as the question itself is saying. And number 3 is developing standard methods and processes. This is the, of course, Center of Excellence services. Deploying staff at the startup and end of the program of the project. This is also a delivery function of the P3O. The one which has to do with top management and portfolio support, strategic management, is actually the risk. And this is not any risk. It is escalated risks. Escalated risks means risk that has not been treated at the project and program level. So it is on the top level for the management. So this is why it is one of the strategic planning functions we have in it. We'll understand that further when we go to the next slide. Good. So for the PMO, we can select out of these three central services. We have planning, portfolio, strategic functions, like the one from risk management we have seen now. Delivery functions, that has to do with supporting programs and projects in your organization. And then the center of excellence functions, that has to do with learning, with standards, with knowledge management, and so on. So we have three types of functions. So let us see the first one. So these are the functions that has to do with the portfolio management. So the top level in portfolio management. For example, giving support in building portfolio, analyzing it, reporting about the portfolio. So this is targeted to the top management, of course. Program and project setup and closure. So the starting of the project and ending it, but not giving the resources actually. Stakeholder engagement and communication. This is the role of the OBO at the top. Planning and estimating for the portfolio management. Then capacity planning and resource management on the portfolio level. Benefit management. This is actually managing the benefit that we have got from our programs at the top level, making sure that it is aligned to my strategy. Then KPIs to monitor performance at top level. So these are the functions that are related to our portfolio planning or strategic functions. Then next group of functions are related to managing or supporting the management of programs and projects. Number one, planning and estimating for program management, project management. So estimating the activities, the cost, and so on. So on detailed level. Monitoring, reviewing, and reporting programs and projects. Risk management, issue management on the program level, portfolio level. Then change control, change management. Finance, cost control, and so on. Commercial management, supplier management, contract management, quality assurance, information management, managing the transition of the benefit to the operation. Then sometimes supporting the top management or the portfolio board in secretary works and documentation and so on. Good. So center of excellence functions, these are usual support functions. This is building standard and methods, processes, tools, giving internal consultancy. If you have a problem in risk management and need an expert, for example, they can help. Developing project portfolio and program management competencies by increasing skills of people. Then knowledge management and organizational learning. These are some examples of the center of excellence services. So what will happen, that you have to go through this list, look to your assessment, what you have done, and then select out of these what are the most important functions you need in your organization. Good. So then again, we review the steps together. We start to make an assessment, but this assessment should be beyond the traditional maturity level assessment. We have to go more for analyzing the impact of the pandemic, the COVID-19, and what is happening after that on our projects. We have a lot of layoffs. We have budgets that are decreased for projects and so on. We have to see how to deal with that. Then the functions that we are willing to change. So we select the functions need to be changes, especially adding functions for recovery planning, recovery of troubled projects, and so on, as part of the PMO or P3O functions. Then maybe according to the changes in the function, we may need to restructure the P3O model, combine two offices together, maybe go to the virtual one in order to make sure that all organization parts are getting services from the P3O. And then maybe also we can change the implementation. We're going to speak about the implementation on the next slides. Changing the method of the implementation. Instead of doing it in one branch, we can do it maybe in small tranches. Good. So now new poll for us. Number 5. So priorities for assessment. If you have the following lists for assessing the impact of COVID-19 on your project portfolio. So you have 4 lists ready there. Revised list of strategic priorities, list of the changes you are making or that are being forced on you in the business, then list of core operations impacted, and list of all your stakeholders impacted. In your opinion, what is the best answer for ranking the priorities? So here the answer you are selecting is 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. So which one of you have highest priority, then the next. So we have 4 answers. Please choose one of them. Little bit long question, but it is worth looking at it. Good. Okay, numbers are still playing. It's a long question. Let us give 1 more minute. Fine. So it seems you selected number 2 and 3. 2 is the top, and then number 3. Good. I agree also with you. My selection is number 2, actually. First is strategic priorities are very important. We have first to align our P3O to the changing strategies after the COVID-19. And maybe comes C, list of core operation impacted, because this is your where you are getting your money actually for the organization. You have to concentrate on that. Then comes the stakeholders. You have to look to the stakeholders, and at the end you look to the changes you are making, because usually the changes in number B will be as a result of the other 3 items. So the best answer here is A, C, D, B, but again, this is according to the priorities that you have in your organization. Good. So now we know the steps. Let us now go through these steps one by one. So assessment of the pandemic impact. Some of the questions we are going to ask is, are you maintaining a revised list of strategic priorities? So you have to speak with top management, see what has been changed in the strategies. I think a lot of companies are going to change their strategies, especially to the digital project management. Maybe digitalization will be a big challenge in the next time. Next question, is your business doing everything possible to maintain its core operations? Of course, this is also another, as I said, this is a source of getting money and keeping people busy working and so on. So you have to look at this by contacting your business managers, operation managers for different business areas. Then the changes that you have been forced to do, okay, or you are making, also you have to know what has been the impact, what has been the factors impacting your business in the period of the COVID-19. Then communication with the stakeholder. These are the 4 elements that are voted for. And as you have seen, this is very important questions for the assessment. So here some of the sample functions that we can change. For example, if you have a function of building portfolio, prioritization, and so on, you may need to adapt for COVID-19 by adapting these portfolios to the priorities according to changed strategic plans. This is one of the function you have to do. Then in estimating, you have also to re-estimate the cost, the time required for your projects, portfolio of projects, based on the priorities and the budgets cut maybe that you will suffer. Then capacity planning, you have to take into consideration any layoff that has happened during the COVID-19. Performance monitoring and reporting, you may would like to add some new KPIs to measure the impact of COVID-19, how the recovery of projects are running, and so on. Risk management is clear. A lot of risks we have a lot of risks now. Then you have to update your risk register and issue log that you have. Commercial supplier management need also some negotiation with the partners, suppliers, and so on, in order to have revised agreements with them to overcome the impact of COVID-19. But please, with win-to-win agreement, not forcing all the impact on the suppliers. Standard and methods, maybe you can opt to use agile instead of the traditional project management to make the changes more quickly. Or if the agile is not available in your organization, you may try to use a hybrid method, mixing traditional method with agile methods. Good. So now to the implementation. Then question, which is not a reason for implementing the P3O as a project or program. Usually, we implement P3O, re-energizing the P3O as a project. Which of these reasons is not valid if we are looking to that one? 4 questions, only 1 question is correct, or the best answer. Please take care that the question is saying not. So you are looking to what is not a reason. Good. Numbers, I think, are stable. We can end the poll, please. Okay. Good. So answer number 2 is applying own resources rather than outsourced resources. This actually will not impact whether you are doing it as a project, a program, or even business as usual. Even if you need some help from outside, you will use it as part of outsourced resources, whether it is project or not a project. So this is not a reason for choosing project or program. However, the other 3 elements, 1, 3, and 4, are very important reasons why we are usually recommending the implementation to be like a project or program. So we're going to see these on the next slides. Good. So we apply the change as a program or a project in order to, first of all, make sure that we have appropriate governance at appropriate level. You have a governance provided to the P3O implementation, to the re-energizing implementation. You will have, if it is a program, you will have a senior responsible owner from the top management. He will give sponsorship and support to the program. If it's a project, we'll call it P3O sponsor or project sponsor. So this will support the project. The benefit number 1. Benefit number 2, as usual in any project, you have defined budget, you have expected outcomes for the projects and programs, and then you have time scale to deliver. So you have definite time for that. Then when you choose to implement like a project or program, you will have a project life cycle with phase gates where you can make your controls over the gates. In case of program management, we can add also the benefit management, and this is a very important topic. I think one of the lecture that we have before in one of the webinar subjects was about benefit management and the importance of benefit management. Good. Now here is the typical life cycles of programs and projects according to the British system. If you choose the program, you have mainly four phases. First phase is identify. So then you have phase gate, then you define, then deliver, realize, then close. This is according to the managing successful programs, the standard for program management according to UK standards. If you choose to make it as a project, then you have the Prince2 one, so which is startup, initiation, delivery, and closing. Each one of them will give you, after each phase, you have a phase gate for review. Let us select together the program level 1 and then see what are the deliverables we are expecting in each phase for the implementation. Okay, so first phase, in the phase of identification, we are going to make the current state assessment. So to know what is the impact of pandemic on you and on all your business parts that you have. Then we will have an outline vision statement, like the one we have seen in getting approval from the top management. Then we'll have objectives and goals. Then a business case at outline level, high level, okay? And then after this identification, we'll usually provide a brief about our project to the management. This is a first phase gate. It will be revised and approved. And when this approved means we have already clear objectives and goals and based on the current state. So next step will be defining the P3O project. So defining means defining the team based on the objectives and the goals, defining our stakeholders, then completing the vision statement. We had already our outline one, then we have a detailed vision statement, then we have our blueprint. Blueprint is like the roadmap. This is the future state of our P3O, including the design, the functions, the support functions required, and so on. All what we have discussed in the last slides will be part of our blueprint. It is also recommended to have benefit management plan to list the benefits and how we are going to manage the benefits during the project. Then the business case will be updated, including detailed risks. And at the end, all these will be capitalized together in an implementation plan. Call it program plan, call it implementation plan, call it transition plan. So this is a plan that we are going to use for the delivery of the P3O. So here is the execution part. Okay, so we'll start to execute the plan that you have. Follow the plan. You will start to have new capabilities from the P3O. Then you start to realize benefits that you have in your benefit management plan. You will need to make reviews from time to time, monthly review, periodic reviews, and so on, in order to make sure the delivery is according to the plan. Then comes to the closing. When we close, of course, this is a transition to the operation. So if you look here to the main phase gates, so the first phase gate is mandating, authorizing the P3O implementation program. Then the program brief we are going to get from the identification. Then the program definition and plan. The definition is the blueprint, basically, and the plan, of course, is the transition plan. Then here, capabilities and benefits that has been realized, so will be checked in this phase gate. Then at the end, we will have the transition and make our end of program report, the closure report that we usually have for our programs and projects. Good. So you see here that it is recommended that, especially for this post-pandemic, that the delivery itself will not done by the traditional method that we have. We should do it in trenches, maybe better in agile style, so that we can make the business quickly and finish the P3O without any big problems, especially to cope with change. So let us see how we can deliver these into trenches using agile or hybrid methods. So this is a traditional way we use for implementing our projects. Yeah, we start with having project objectives, project charter, then we plan the project, then we start to baseline the plan. So here we know what should we have to do. Then we start to execute based on the resources we have. Then we compare our execution to the plan that we have approved, and then the cycle goes and goes. So if we want to add some agile elements to this, what we can do is to plan the high level plan of the project, like the traditional method, and then we start to make agile implementation for the remaining part. This is the part with red, okay? So instead of having the whole plan, we have the plan into trenches, as we mentioned in the last one. You make trenches, and we plan these trenches in a collaborative manner. Collaborative means all the stakeholders that are going to be impacted by P3O, top management, program managers, project managers, operation managers will participate in the planning, and we are going to see together what we can do. What we can do, not only what we should do, but also what we can do. And from this, we can decide what we are going to do for the first tranche. Then we execute the first tranche, compare, and then select next tranche, and so on. This is the agile people calling that user stories and so on. This actually the trenches we are going to implement in it. By this way, we are minimizing the risk of the implementation, getting early fruits from the implementation, concentrating on one where our stakeholders are considering as important items for us. So start with the important items, rescuing, for example, the strategic project first, and then go to the core operations, rescuing any projects has to do with it, and so on. So this selection process of what we are going to rescue and so on should be according to the collaborative approach in the planning, which is part of the hybrid system that sometimes is used by mixing agile and traditional methods. Good. So as a summary now, for your post-pandemic P3O implementation, so make an assessment, very thoroughly assessment, choose the correct functions, correct model. Also, the implementation itself should be selected by having trenches, small pieces, one piece at a time, finish it, and then go to the next one. Good. Dr. Saadi, we are ready now for questions, if there is any questions. Are we on time?
Sorry? Yeah, of course.
Good.
Of course.
Good.
No problem with respect to time. Thank you, Ahmed. Before we start the discussion, I just would like to invite everybody again to next week, week 21. We have with us Ramiz Al-Habib. Ramiz is a GACA general manager. He was responsible for King Abdulaziz International Airport project at Jeddah, and before it, he managed multi-billion-dollar projects, giga projects, and he has a method of how to simplify the complex. So his topic is about giga projects transforming to basics. By this, let's start the Q&A session. Let us end the presentation. Okay. So actually, so far, there are very few questions. Nevertheless, I myself have multiple questions. The first question, which more than one person asked, I think you spoke a bit about it, but what's the main difference between PMO and P3O?
Good. Very good. So basically, the first difference is that P3O is a specific model of PMO, which is done by OGC and Exlos and the British system. So this is the name they have selected. The first difference. Second difference, that when you say PMO in the USA or the PMI system, it is not clear whether it's a program office, it's a project office, is it a portfolio office, and so on. Here they have very clear distinction for it, as we have seen the 5 elements. We have an element for portfolio management, which is a portfolio office. And then we have a program office, we have a project office, and then we have the center of excellence. So having this clarity of the roles of each one of them, this is something good. But I think last time we have what we have called EBMO in the PMI system, yeah, EBMO. So EBMO is equivalent to the OBO, the portfolio one, the portfolio level. Nevertheless, still in PMO, it is not clear. When we just say PMO, it is not clear. But in the P3O, it is very clear that we are speaking about the 3 levels, and each level has a component in the P3O. You can take it or leave it, but the components are there to cover portfolio, program, projects management.
Okay, so mainly it's I believe it's a terminology thing.
Yeah.
Usually the British, they go more on the governance and on the setting, if you like, the framework in a clear manner.
Yeah,
Where
clear terminology, clear definitions of what they need, and this is what I found very good in this part.
Okay. Whereas on the other side, in the US culture, you're gonna have to be a tailor.
Yeah,
So
flexibility.
you will, yes, you will have to tailor everything. I believe every system has its merits. In our team, in every PMO we established or participated with, we actually got references from PMI, from Axilos, P3O, management of portfolio of projects of value, and so on, from IPMA, from ANSI, from ISO. I believe the consultant should not be fanatic to a standard or a specific knowledge culture, let me say,
Yeah.
but rather we should be client-centric and customer-centric. Look at what fits the client more and make our anchor there. We are the client advocate. We are their allies, and we focus on what provides more value for them.
Yeah.
So in my
Sometimes
experience,
also, sometimes also we have some clients, they know actually what they need, and they put in the RFP clearly which standard they want to have as a first priority. And this, of course, it make it a little bit easier for the BMO team. If not, then I agree with you. We have to see what is the best for them, and not only from the standards. We have to also to go back to our experience that we have collected from the culture. I think implementing a BMO in Gulf is not the same like in USA or in UK or in Germany or whatever here. The local culture is very important in this case.
exactly. And another idea came to my mind. I'm always asked, can we, for the sake of saving money or making things more pragmatic, have one office which manages portfolio, program, and project? I have an opinion, but I'd like yours, please, on this one.
It depends on the size of the company. If the company is small, maybe yes, you will have just one office, very enough. Sometimes we have not a big office with 2-3 people managing it. But if it's a big company with different business lines, for example, products and services, maybe it is better to have a central one concentrating on the portfolio, on the strategic issues, and then each business area can have its programs and project managed by one office. So this is my understanding actually in this case.
Yeah, I sort of agree because most of the standards have been made for large organizations and government. This is why it's very clear in the British system or European system when they focus about the temporary and the permanent. So they cannot be the same, the temporary and the permanent, because their objectives are quite different. When you talk about portfolio, your objective is to realize the strategy and help the selection and the support of whatever helps in making the strategy something real and concrete. Whereas for strategy implementation, whereas when you talk about program project, they are temporary and their objectives, okay, yes, they are tied to benefits, okay, but even benefit management, as we're gonna see with Stephen Jenner in 2 weeks. Now, Stephen Jenner, he's the author for managing benefits, which is another standard, and it has a certification by APMG. So it ties very well with portfolio management and strategy. Because the people who will realize the benefit are not the temporary people. They are the people in the operations, the people in the permanent structure, the people who will remain after the programs are over and after the projects are over. This is why the definition and the ownership and the management and the follow-up has to be tied to the portfolio, which is more a permanent function.
Good.
Now, yeah. Let's take, there are a couple of questions that I've seen. One from, okay. I asked Riyadh the difference between PMO, Office, and P3O. Now there is a question from our friend Nawaf Al-Ahmadi. Marhaba Nawaf. Always happy to have Nawaf. He's a dear friend from Saudi Arabia. The challenge is in the generation of value in having P3O. Is there any proven way or template for quantifying the ROI on the company itself? I'm always afraid about from questions containing ROI.
Good. So the standard from the P3O is called Portfolio Program Project Office. Includes this and in the foundation book that is by Exelos. It has a very good example of business case for implementing P3O. So it is with figures and how we calculate the ROI in this case. You can calculate the projects that, for example, are going to be delayed when you don't have the BMO. And then if you have a BMO, you are going to mitigate some of the delays. So you can take these delays and put it in figures. You are going to optimize the resources. So how much you can optimize and put it in figure. This way you can have a real ROI. And there is a very good example in the book itself. A book is called P3O, Portfolio Program and Project Management Offices, P3O. So go to Exelos website, please, and then you will find this book with very good example.
Okay, great. Now, what I found out, and many studies that we've seen, what makes PMOs or P3Os successful, one of the factors that I've actually seen myself is that when the director or manager for the P3O or the PMO thinks and acts like a leader, like a business owner, when they think and act as a business owner, they are capable of focusing on what is very much important and strategic to the business, and then realigning their thinking and reviewing and redoing the business case and its ROI from whatever matters most to the business, whether it is during or after the pandemic. So if you're talking the language or what we call the pains that keep people or CEOs awake at night, if you're talking their language and touching the points that they see very important, they're not gonna let you go. They will support you. And one simple question is, how will you make sure that you will implement your strategy? You will realize the strategy. I believe it all connects, even the strategy implementation roadmap by Antonio Nieto Rodriguez and Robin Speculant. Yeah, it very much ties to this because we do not live in islands, okay? Silos do not work. We have to integrate. So we have to connect the strategy implementation.
Not in La La Land, as you always say.
Yes, not in La La Land. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's see another question. Okay, we have a question from Samar Naufal. Marhaba Samar. So he's saying, in your opinion, do you think that we should define the epidemic as a risk from the beginning instead of re-updating the P3O, and how we should deal with it? For example, making an alternative plan for strategies, method of work, staff, and goals.
Good question. This is, of course, a question after the fact. Now we know, I think that all organizations know what has happened after this pandemic. All of them will prepare such plans, I think, for next years. But we are speaking about the fact that we are already there. I think most of us didn't prepare well for this pandemic. Yeah. Even in the governments, most of the governments were not ready to deal with the pandemic. But for the future, I think, yes, your approach is correct. We have to be prepared, handle it like a risk, prepare plan B, plan C even for that. so that we have a fallback plan, not only a contingency plan. Yes, I agree with you. Yes, for the future.
Yeah, because it was an unknown. Nobody ever in the world thought that something major would happen and change everybody's life in every single country, okay? Which is not something we've seen before, okay? And it changed all our lives, our thinking. Now, yes, definitely, I believe internal auditors will ask all CEOs to include in their plans and controls the more about business continuity. Not only from the perspective we used to see in IT and telecom and whatnot to keep the service on, but actually to keep the whole organization on. Okay, so it requires a holistic look at things. Okay, how to the virtual aspect. These webinars, we never did them before. Okay, we had the chance, but we saw them not very necessary, not important. We'd rather communicate with people and sit in large rooms and speak and communicate. We only found the value that we can reach much more people at a more convenient manner using virtual platforms. We discovered this in our.
I think it's more cost effective also.
Yes,
More cost
exactly,
effective.
exactly. Now we have a question from my friend Ahmed Khraizat. Ahmed will be speaking soon on bid management, bidding, and integrating bidding with project management, which I believe his topic in his doctorate studies. He's studying at Schema, my school in France. Now, Ahmad, he's saying, my understanding is that P3O would mainly have a governance objective. My question, would it be different if the company is implementing the P3O for internal projects versus external projects delivering to customers?
Good. The governance is one aspect of the P3O, is not only the governance. Governance is one of the aspects, important aspects, of course. If you have a P3O, maybe you have noticed that in the customization aspects that I mentioned, one of the aspects that need customization, whether you are going to use the P3O to manage internal or external projects. External project in this case means we are doing these projects for our client base and so on. I think the main customization will be, of course, that you are working under a contract. You are not working in the same organization. You have a contract. You have to follow the contract's terms and conditions that you have. You have a good contract management specialist in the BMO so that he can manage all these contracts. Also, I think if you have internal projects, maybe you have some flexibility in the budget more than when you have an external project where the budgets are already set in the contract and you have to work with the budget. But yes, of course, it will be different, and you have to assess the P3O from case to case.
Okay. Well, actually, this topic touches me very much because it's part of my research. In the integrated lifecycle management framework, when you want to initiate projects, they could be internal or external, and they go almost through similar phases, not the same, because when you want to participate in a bid, there will be, especially for large projects, a committee that would give you a go or no go to seek a specific bid, okay? Because it will cost you to raise a team and spend some months, okay, in order to write a bid. I believe Ahmad will speak about this in detail. So there are phase gates before you move on and write a bid and submit and then win or not. Whereas in the internal, they will always have a business case for every internal project, okay, and including a feasibility to decide or not to spend that much of organization money and resources on something that changes the organization. Will it provide the benefits we need, or we'll just be losing money? So it's quite important. Now there is a question from who? Hilal Saadi, he's saying, should we consider the advent of this COVID-19 as force majeure? However, in all forthcoming project plans, the pandemic shall be considered as a likely risk event.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, as we discussed before, it was an unknown. But for the future, each good company, let us say, will take this as one of the risks and group of risks actually, and then we'll have a plan for that, contingency plan for the future. Yes, agree with you, Hilal, and welcome, Hilal here.
Okay. So I believe these are most of the questions tonight. I had an idea before we finish. When you were talking, especially about the business case, I believe this is one of the things which is really not perfected in our world. Yani, how many times you see what is a business case? It's a persuasive document. It should touch. The British, they have a standard for it. There is actually a certification called the, I think, successful business case or something like that.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, it has 5 chapters in every business case. It's not about finance only, it's about multiple other things. So I always, when I speak about PMOs or P3Os, I try to open the door for PMO managers or directors. And I tell them, in one of the books that are very famous, From Good to Great, they are talking about what is a great company. And they start by providing 6 factors. One of them is knowing your hedgehog concept. Now, what is the hedgehog concept? Okay, you know the hedgehog, القنفذ, it wakes up in the morning and it wants to drink water from the river. So while the hedgehog goes to the river, the fox says, okay, our breakfast today will be a hedgehog. So he attempts to attack the hedgehog, and the hedgehog, what does he do? What he does best by the way God created him. It makes itself like a ball, okay? So every time the fox tries to touches it, the fox hurts himself. Then when the fox goes away, it continues. And then the fox makes another move, attack another time, and it defends itself using the same manner, and so on. Now, if the hedgehog attempted to attack the fox can take a hit, flip it on its back, then eat it from its belly where it's weak. So in this book, they speak about the hedgehog concept, that every organization should discover its hedgehog, what they are good at, what is good for their commercial aspect and finance, what they enjoy, what the people see them as leaders in. And sometimes it takes people years to discover their hedgehog. So if you know or discover the hedgehog, I tell the PMO or P3O manager, when you want to write your business case, start with the hedgehog. Start with the core things upon which your organization, whether it is a private or a public organization, has been built on. Why do you exist? Whom do you serve? Okay, what are your strategic objectives? You start from there. If you start from there, you cannot be wrong. People will listen to you, okay? But in many cases, what we've seen, you've seen it, Ahmed, a lot, and I've seen it, and all our advisors and friends have seen it. When people start say, yes, we have a P3O, a PMO, there are processes, and there are tools and techniques, and there are training, and they don't know why in the world they exist or what purpose they serve, then they will not be able to convince and prevail. So I just wanted to add this note. Before we go away, Habibi, another question. We'll take the last question from our friend from UAE, Ahmed Al-Marzouki. For post-pandemic recovery of projects, there will be doing the project internally, in-house work. using the internal team of instructors, line subject matter experts, SMEs, to have cost reduction, cost optimization, increased profitability, economic interest of the company under COVID-19 during 2020 and 2021. What is your guidance and recommendation during the current crisis?
Okay, so good question. Especially in the Gulf area, this is not just in UAE, I think. We have a lot of layoffs that has happened with expats and so on. So this may be a chance and opportunity for the Gulf countries actually in order to build on the internal resources they have. The only thing that we need actually is competency development. We have to train our own people, increase a little bit the level of training that they need. Maybe if we don't need to have experts coming and sitting there, we can use this opportunity for online and virtual consulting also. So this will reduce the cost. I think a very, very major cost is the cost of traveling, and cost of all this could be dropped now. Yes, it's a good idea. My recommendation is to make competency development for the group as a team before you start implementing P3O or changes in a PMO or something like that.
Okay, excellent. So by this, I end tonight's session. This is one of the shortest sessions, yet it has a lot of value. Thank you, my dear friend Ahmed. And I'd like to thank everybody for staying with us as usual in every Wednesday night. Until next Wednesday, stay safe and see you soon, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.